Today, I will show you a few ways to copy standard and exploratory reports to other services. Google Analytics 4, welcome. Hi, my name is Bartek, and today I'll show you how you can copy reports to other services. Google Analytics 4. In GA4, we can use exploratory reports and standard default reports in our data analyses. You can create them from scratch, edit them, and also save them for later use. However, if we have access to several Google Analytics 4 services, we would like to use them in our other services as well. And for that, we can use the copy option, copying reports in GA4. But there's also another way to create a new standard report using a properly constructed URL link. And today, I would like to show you in practice what it looks like. So, I invite you, and don't forget to give a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I invite you. Oh, and one more thing. This video was translated using AI, so please be understanding. Okay, first we'll deal with standard reports, our default reports, which we can copy to other services in two ways. We can create such a report either from scratch by going to the library and then clicking on New Report, or by entering an existing default report and simply editing it. So, we'll prepare this report. A quick report, and then we'll copy it. What I usually like to add are two metrics, adding to cart and transactions. If I'm creating such a report for an e-commerce store, we'll move on to the metrics. We'll search for transactions and adding to the cart. We'll arrange it a bit differently here too. Okay. I'll also leave this additional chart here. All right. And I'll save it as a new report. And now such a report, we can copy it to another service, of course to this service that we have access to. So I'm going to the library. And now that I have this report prepared, I click on the three dots here in the spot, and I can copy it to other services. So I'll copy it, for example, to two services. Now moving on to those two services. Exactly the same report. I already have it prepared, which I can of course add to one of those existing report collections in the library. However, we can only use this method if we have access to different services. Google Analytics 4. So this is good for people who work, for example, in an agency or as freelancers. But if someone only has access to their own service and wants to create the same report, unfortunately, they can't copy it and have to start everything from scratch. So a better solution might be this second method, which allows you to copy a standard report using the appropriate URL. And you can find a description of this method in my checklist that I've prepared. It's linked at the bottom in the video description. How can you prepare a URL to copy a standard report? Or use my example, standard reports. Briefly, how's it look? How does it work? It works in such a way that when you go to the reports, standard reports, we have a URL that contains various dimensions, metrics, filters that we have set in the standard reports. At this moment, we don't have any other information here. But for example, if you go to the dimensions, of dimensions, you save, you can see that the URL has already changed immediately, just like with the metrics, and so on and so forth. From here, you can copy such a report. So if you edit these standard reports, you can see that each GA4 service has its own such an ID. And now, in each of these standard reports, there is this ID. If I'll pull out the ID that I have, for example here, I'll highlight it in red. I'll copy it And now in the edit, I'll find myself. This is your ID. Next, I'll add my ID. GA4. And I'll replace all of these ID. So now, for example, by copying such a URL from my checklist, pasting it into the browser, you can immediately see that it's exactly the same. I can create a standard report. For example, I'll take a report about Google Ads, which is a really nice report because it combines data, Google Ads data with Google Analytics. Paste such a URL. With my report, I can create such a report on my service. So, you can see that we have clicks from Google Ads, costs from Google Ads, transactions, and various metrics related to Google Analytics, for and Google Ads. Then I can do it myself. To save such a report, and you'll see that I already have such a report prepared in my GA4 service. In summary, the first method is good if you want to quickly copy a standard report between the services we have access to. The second way is the URL method is good when we want to copy it. A new report for a new service that we will want to add to Google Analytics for the first time. 4. If anyone is interested in the details of how this URL looks and how it can be modified on your own, there's a link to my blog post here where you can learn more about it. Okay, now moving on. To exploration reports starting from January 2024, we also have the ability to copy exploration reports between services. And it works exactly the same way as in the case of standard reports, i.e., we can choose a specific report that we want to copy to another service, Google Analytics 4, which we have access to. For example, I have a prepared exploration report here. We click on the 3 dots and copy that report to another service, Google Analytics 4. And we already have exactly that report prepared here, just like we had in another service. Unfortunately, we don't have the option to create an exploration report or copy an exploration report based on a URL, because the URL doesn't change here. So if we want to create a new report that we saw somewhere or found online, we have to create it from scratch. We don't have the ability to create such an exploration report based on a URL, as is the case here. In the case of standard default reports. Okay, and that's all. Today you also know how to copy standard reports or exploration reports, and also how to create a new report using a properly constructed URL link. So thank you very much, and remember to give a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And if you have any questions, just write them in the comments. Thanks, and see you later.